Welcome to Sometimes There's Side Eye, a podcast about two friends having real and unfiltered conversations about dogs and people. Listen as we talk about our lives with dogs, training, behavior, share some laughs, and a whole lot of banter. I'm Heather.
And I'm Christy.
Welcome back, everybody. It's our first episode of 2025. Christy, what are we talking about?
Well, now that the New Year ball has dropped, we're talking about dropping balls on this episode.
Oh my goodness.
To
Wow.
clarify, we're talking about dogs
We're
and
talking about
neutering.
balls.
Yeah,
I
balls
mean,
on
really.
dogs.
Fair warning, although we are adult middle-aged women, we're probably going to act like middle schoolers this entire episode. So I
Absolutely.
hope that you all can join along with us and laugh.
And have a sense of humor with us.
Yes, yes.
Also, we're going to be talking about some controversial opinions, and we would hope that you stick with us through the episode because I think it's a great opportunity to hear both sides of spay and neuter. And so keep an open mind.
Well, we all know where I stand.
Where do you stand, Heather?
I mean, leave the balls be. No. Um, okay.
Do any of your boy dogs have balls right now?
No, but
Okay.
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So Tater came to us neutered from
Mhm.
the rescue. I'm assuming he was neutered around 12 months. Tiago, obviously intact. He was a show dog, so that was required, but that's not really why he was intact. I did neuter him at 6 years old, and I had a few reasons for that. One, I knew I was going to be bringing a female and puppy into my house and that she was going to be intact for probably the first couple heat cycles. She won't be bred, but she'll be intact for health reasons, which we're going to talk about. And then the second reason was he was having some irregularities that were just sort of like, and some questionable prostate stuff going on. And so we decided to go ahead, since I had the female coming home, to go ahead and neuter him. And although I do keep my boys who come to me intact that way, I do also do weekly ball checks.
I can't right now.
You
I don't even know what to say to that.
know it's true. I did it with
I don't think I
Cash.
ever put that together.
Yes. Yes, because you want to look for testicular changes. And if you're going to keep your dogs intact, especially the boys, well, the females, you want to look for changes too, but especially for the boys, you do want to look for any changes. And part of that is doing our weekly ball checks.
Yeah.
So there you
So,
go.
so having an intact male requires a little more diligence from the owner when it comes to health issues.
Yeah, I
Would you say?
mean, I would say that weekly ball checks are not a big deal. I mean, it's just kind of part of life, but I also do nails once a week, so to me, those things probably aren't a big deal. But my stance on the whole balls thing is if I don't have a medical or behavioral reason to take them, then I'm not taking them because the boys are really easy to have and be responsible with when they're intact. So Tiago is my second. Yes, my second Rottweiler that I have had that we left intact until 6 or 7 years old and never had an accidental litter, never had an issue, and we've never had a behavioral issue. So,
Right.
it's kind of simple.
And
Females
I
are
would like,
a different ball
yeah,
game.
and I would like to put a caveat out here, a very, very strong caveat that we do not think that rescues should be
No,
sending out intact males who are sexually mature. We don't think that that is I 100 Heather is giving me a look, but I 100% would say I don't agree with rescues sending intact males out to the public. You clearly want to weigh in, Heather.
a rescue gave me an adolescent male intact
An
Rottweiler
irresponsible rescue.
rescue. No, I do agree with you there. And no, seriously, I'm like making a face just because I know how I know it can be easy to be responsible, but I am with you. The average American public cannot and should not handle an intact animal. Like it is a responsibility. It truly
Mhm,
is. And it is a choice that you have to weigh for your own personal situation, I guess.
mhm.
And
Yeah, because accidents happen, and I don't think there should ever be a point where rescue is contributing
oh, hell no.
to the overpopulation of animals
Yeah.
by adopting out animals who are not spayed or neutered.
Yeah. I mean,
With the exception of, see, there's always an exception to the rule. With the
ah,
exception of puppies with a contract that they will become spayed or neutered, because I know a lot of rescues are also learning about
mm-hmm.
the benefits of waiting for
Yeah.
spay and neuter.
Trying to get
Um,
right away from the pediatric spay and neuter. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
And there's a lot of science and research, and I'm sure if you look, you can find it still going both ways. But I think that
yeah.
the stuff that goes towards the old school thought process is probably somebody who's based in the old school thought process. You know what I mean?
And so I actually did a little bit of research for this
Look out.
episode.
Buckle up, people. Christy did research. Holy shit.
I know. What I found was an interesting study, which I read through, that they are finding for sure larger dogs should be spayed or neutered after their growth plates
Mm-hmm.
have been completed. So when they're at an adult age, so typically 18 plus months. But they're also finding that in some breeds, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like one of the researches, I'll just read here. Large and giant dog breeds, however, need to be spayed or neutered later to avoid disrupting their growth pattern, which can lead to certain conditions related to their joints and bones. And then that same, I believe it was that same study said that, for example, Newfoundland breeds have heightened risks for joint disorders. Female Ridgeback breeds have heightened risk for mast cell tumors with early neutering. But Siberian Husky showed no significant effects to joint disorders or cancers. So it can be breed based too. So I
I
would
would
say
like to
do
know the
research.
propensity of cancer in the different breeds overall and the differences.
Yes.
That would be interesting to know.
Mhm.
You know? I
Uh-huh.
mean, I totally get it. The thing that pushed me to really consider the neutering situation so many years ago, because I mean, honestly, it was a long time ago that I made the decision not to neuter my boys. I neutered Link, my very first Rottweiler, at 2 because he was a behavioral nightmare, right? And the behavior
Mhm.
research had not caught up back then. This was
Mhm.
2005, right? And so I neutered him hoping that some of the behavior shit would tamp down a little bit. So he was 2 years old. He also died at 6 from osteosarcoma. And
Mhm.
at some point during his life, there was a research study that came out and was shared amongst the Rottweiler community that in male Rottweilers, if you neuter, their propensity for osteosarcoma shoots through the roof. And that did an emotional number on me. So I
Mm.
was very invested in understanding where I was going with my next male Rottweiler. And so I have like an emotional stake that pushed me down this avenue that is separate from me just being into purebred dogs and kind of doing the show thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You left Cash intact, knowing he's not going to be a show
Oh
dog.
yeah.
He's just going to be a pet home dog. Yeah.
He's the one that we got from the unethical rescue intact. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, we knew, but it was I felt confident in my decision of, well, unless I have a good reason
Mhm.
to neuter him, I'm not going to. And we didn't until he was later in life. So,
Yeah.
and I don't,
And Mhm.
I think it's a really personal decision. I think that,
Absolutely.
what you do with your dog's bits is like one of those subjects that it's like at family dinners, you don't talk about politics, religion, or there's some other thing, but we'll say politics and religion so that
Mhm.
nobody like starts to hate each other. And I feel like in the dog world, you don't talk about dog food, vaccines, and spay and neuter. Like we just
Yeah.
don't, unless you know you're amongst friends, you're just not going to talk about
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. But I do think it should be talked about
it.
because
Yeah.
there are some health issues associated with it now that we want people to make an educated decision. Like I'm always going to have a spay or neutered animal because I'm always going to get them from rescue
Hmm.
and I'm always going to go to a responsible rescue and I'm never getting a puppy. So all of those things, one plus one plus one equals three. So yeah. So I'm probably always going to have, a spay or neutered animal in my
Yeah.
home, which is great. I think one of the reasons I said I wanted to do this episode with Heather is because there was a group of friends talking, and one of my friends was educating another friend on how ridiculous it is that people say not to spay and neuter or not to neuter male dogs, and that this was the most ridiculous thing, and you're going to run into so many problems and so many issues with behavior and all these things. And all I could think was, but Tiago was kind of a rock star. I mean, not even kind of. Tiago's a rock star.
Stop talking about him in past tense.
I meant when he had his balls. That's the
Oh,
past
okay.
tense part.
That's acceptable.
With his balls, he was still a rock
Yeah.
star. I didn't see a huge change in his
Yeah.
personality or anything, but also he's not a humper,
Yeah.
which we say like, oh, you need
Oh.
to, but Tater, on the other hand,
Oh my
such a
gosh.
humper,
Okay.
such a humper.
So when we were thinking about doing a balls episode, this is what I want to talk about.
Mhm.
I want to talk about the fact that Tater humps anyone and everything. And it doesn't
Does
matter.
he hump people? No.
Absolutely.
What?
Absolutely. He has
Mhm.
asked Christina about the time that she was on the ottoman and he went and grabbed onto her back and was going to town.
Oh no,
Sorry,
Tater.
Christina. He's definitely grabbed onto people's legs. Absolutely. He's terrible.
Tater.
And here's the thing about Tater. He's a bulldog. He does not care. You can say and do anything. Believe me, I have tried. And he doesn't care. The only thing that will break him from
Mhm.
humping is,
Mhm.
and I'm not going to say it because he's in here, CHEESE. Well,
Mm.
I cannot have that on me 24/7 all the time because little Mr. I don't have balls wants to hump everything.
Yeah. And Lucy's teeth would also break him of that. But it
Well,
took very strong correction. She would
very
warn him
strong. Hmm.
several times, and then she would put him in the corner
Hmm.
and make him stay there and think about his bad choices.
But most dogs will not correct him as hard and
Mm.
as consistently as he needs
Mhm.
to make an impression. The
Yes.
only other dog that I have seen do that has actually made an impression is June, which Chris Ann and Cindy were on the show with us. June, the service dog. She has made an impression on Tater that humping is not okay. But it's a serious problem. Meanwhile, you have Tiago, who was intact most of his life at this point,
Yeah.
and I can think like literally maybe 3 times that he's ever like air humped because he was so excited and over threshold about something that is
Mhm.
how it presented.
Mhm.
Literally specific scenarios where it was like, "Oh my God, is he doing that?" because we're so shocked that it's happening. But
Mhm.
this is like not part of his repertoire.
Right. Yeah. And Jackson came to me neutered, obviously.
Yeah.
And from what I can see in his records, was neutered before he was 1 year old, between 6 months and 9 months old. He was neutered. one of the things that people say they get their dog neutered for is marking, aggression,
Mm.
and humping. I think those are like the big, kind of the big three.
Yeah,
We're talking in threes apparently tonight.
apparently.
So those are the big three. And he came into my house and marked immediately. Went to a dog sitter's house and marked immediately. He's grown out of that now, but I keep an eye on him. But I'll probably belly band him if I'm like going to an Airbnb because I don't trust that he won't mark. He likes to mark in the ring. He likes to mark on our walks 5 million times. So clearly the early neuter did not do its part there.
No.
He's just not an aggressive dog, so I don't think that's, an
Yeah.
issue for him. But he does, like, sometimes he just decides to hump, like air hump. Typically not, no, he likes to hump other dogs sometimes if he gets excited.
Yeah.
Not people, but well, thank goodness. But yeah, sometimes he just stands next to my desk and air humps. It's lovely. Boy dogs are gross, by the way.
Okay, well, let's just like break that little stereotype because Remy, dear little
Oh,
Remy, she was a colossal humper. And like,
yeah.
she was spayed at 2 years old, I believe, when she came into rescue. We got
Mhm.
her at 4. Now, I could see a clear connection to when she was anxious or overly excited. She would
Mhm.
go and she would hump Cash. And that was like her choice.
Um,
Like, that's who she went to. She would
her
be
little,
like,
like her security blanket was
she'd be
humping
like,
Cash.
where's Cash? I need to hump him. Yes. So that, I mean, I do think for her it was truly an over threshold thing. She was just like, I don't know what to do. Oh my God, let me out. Let me just let it out, you know?
Yeah. Same
Yeah.
with Lucy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Children put her a
Oh
little
well. Yeah.
over excited, and she gave uncomfortable hugs to children
Still one of the best
sometimes.
stories ever.
So, yeah. And we know that she came into into the shelter pregnant, but we think she was spayed before she was
Yeah.
2, possibly before she was 1.
Something else that I find truly fascinating now, we speak about how perfect Tiago is, but I
Mhm.
am going to tell a
It
little
is.
story that might make people question how perfect he
Mhm.
is. I know. Now, while Tiago is not a humper and he is a very good boy with his balls,
Mhm.
he did really, really get affected by a certain female when she was in season. And it was my
Mm.
friend's dog that we used to travel together to go to shows. So he was around Phoenix a lot when she was in season, and he was a very young dog. He wasn't a problem in the show ring because all the listeners out there, you have to remember all the dogs that you see in show rings, all the dogs at Westminster, all the dogs in these fancy shows, they are all intact. And you don't see
Mhm.
them behaving terribly
Yeah.
around each other. So he knew his job, but when he was around Phoenix the first time that he was sort of coming of age and she went into
Mhm.
season, oh my God, he was screaming in the freaking setup. It was terrible. And then when my friend came over to the house, she didn't even have Phoenix with her. And he
But her
literally
scent was
was
there.
trying to climb her, would lick our pants if we smelled like her. I mean, it was like a whole freaking display. What I
Mhm.
find to be really, really interesting is Trin just went through her first heat. Tiago was neutered at, about a year and a half ago, I think. Nothing affected him. He was
Mm.
complete. So there is a correlation to
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
something somewhere, right? With the
Of
hormones
course.
and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And I think my whole point of sort of saying that whole story is it really just is the individual dog. And I just don't think that the balls have anything to do with the actual situation every single time. Like, I don't think that I think you could be disappointed if your dog has balls and has some sort of issue related to balls or what
Mhm.
you think is related to balls.
Mhm.
And you're going to go and take the balls. And then that issue is going to poof magically go away.
Yeah, I do think we lean on it as a behavioral cure-all
Yeah.
for male dogs. Like,
Yeah.
oh, is your dog too rambunctious? Well, it's because he has his balls. Is he barking? It's because he has his balls.
Is he
Is he
territorial? Yep.
exactly?
Yeah.
It's is he marking? Is he, all the is he too excited around females? Like it's all because of the balls. And some dogs, it is all
Mm-hmm.
because of the balls. There's a little bit too much testosterone going through there. But it's not a catch-all for behavior. And I think that's kind of something we've addressed throughout the podcast is there are no catch-alls for
Yeah,
behavior.
that's
There's
true.
not one thing that fixes everything for
Yeah, because
every
it's
dog.
complex
Yeah,
and it's
behavior is
individual.
complex. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, I am super relieved though that he
Yeah.
was unaffected by her being in season. However, who was not unaffected?
How did Tater do?
Oh my gosh. I seriously worried that I was going to have to separate them.
I did offer to take Tater off of your
Okay,
hands.
are we gonna really? Oh my gosh, poor listeners. Okay, content warning if you have children in the car. I
You probably should have turned it off with the ball drop joke.
probably, I literally asked our vet friend, can a neutered dog and an intact female tie? Because Tater was
And tying means get stuck together.
yes, oh, making babies, but there are
Mhm.
no, I mean, he can't make
No babies.
babies, but
There's bugs.
let me tell you, he could have participated in the act. Although he would have been disappointed, nothing would have come of it. Oh, boom, boom. I
We're hilarious.
I was literally embarrassed. Like I could not even look at this freaking dog. He
Mhm.
was so bad. And I am thankful he didn't like scream and howl and because a lot of
Uh-huh.
male dogs are like that and it's really awful. I didn't have any of that.
Mhm.
But he was so all up in it.
Mhm.
It was quite the situation.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
one more heat to go through before I spay her. And you know what? Tater's probably going to go to Christy's house.
Yay. I'll always take Tater.
Wow.
I and I remember when Lucy was younger, we wondered if they got everything when she was spayed because dogs were so interested in humping her all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend's neutered dog came over and he was so excited. And he got so enlarged that then he couldn't walk
Oh
correctly.
gosh.
And she was mortified. And I was like, I don't know, maybe put him in the cold pool and make him swim around. Cold showers work for guys.
No,
I,
you
I
put
don't
sugar
know.
on it. You put sugar on
Oh,
it.
well, guess what? Cold pool also works
Oh,
just
it's like a
fine.
cold shower. There you
Yeah.
go.
Mhm. So if you ever have that experience, I mean, she was like, I can't even look at you in the face. Like, I need a break from our friendship because I'm
Oh.
so embarrassed. Like,
Oh my gosh. And you know what cracks me up is show dog people, they're like, whatever. Like it's so just part of the world that you're just like, yeah, it doesn't even cross the minds. They don't even think about it. But people who are
but
used to having
maybe
spayed and
that goes,
neutered pets,
yeah, yeah.
and I could have just said, okay, Tiago's situation, he's just perfect boy and very good. And now he's neutered and doesn't care about anything. But our friend literally had the same experience. She has a female who's very similar age to Trin. She came into season right around the same time. She had an intact male who she neutered at about 5 years old. And sure enough, he didn't give a shit about Frankie. He didn't care. And we
Mhm.
thought for sure that she was going to have a problem. So I don't know. I really do. Like, I think that there's something to it for
Mhm.
sure, clearly. But it's just that point of if you think that the balls are the cause of all evil and that that is
Mhm.
going to fix anything and everything, I think you might be in for a sad awakening. And
Mhm.
the more I read, the more there's anecdotal evidence that in some cases it makes things worse. Like it makes
Yeah,
behavioral problems worse.
yeah, like there is some anecdotal evidence that two spayed females in a home
Yeah,
are more likely to fight
which
than
I
two
think is
unspayed.
interesting.
So, like, I never expected that. I was like, no way.
Yeah.
And so, no, it's not proven, but there's some trends there
Well,
that we
yeah.
see and needs to be researched more clearly. But that is not something I expected to see by any means.
I know, and I'm just sitting here trying to think through that and be like, so the hormones go away, so they're more unbalanced.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm like, I'm spitballing here. I'm just like,
Yeah, I
what
don't
the
know.
hell? I don't know. It's very interesting. And
The true bitchiness comes out.
I don't know.
Don't know. But I do think a lot of times people will say like two unneutered males can't be together and because they're just gonna fight. And that has not been what's shown, which I think we're kind of all fed that. That's one of the reasons that you get your males neutered because they're so aggressive with other
Yeah.
unneutered males. But that's not the case. I mean, it can be,
Yeah.
clearly. Anything can be, but it's just interesting that more fights happen with spayed females than two unneutered males living in the same home.
See, and I think that there's a breed element too, because
Mm, yeah.
of course, anecdotally, if you
Mhm,
talk to Rottweiler people and you're like, would you rather have two males in your house or two females? They're going to pick two boys all day long. And they're
mhm,
not even going to want to do that. They're going to want to do one boy, one girl. But Rottweiler people are like, bitches be bitches. And when Rottweiler bitches are fighting and don't like each other, they will go to the death. I mean, it
mhm,
is serious situation. And
mhm,
I think to me, I feel like when it comes to other breeds and like talking to other people, then terriers come to mind for me
mhm,
that people are like, "Oh, I don't want two males." You know what I mean? So I
mhm,
do think that there's also a breed element there
mhm,
that kind of contributes to the whole male female thing and how it kind of comes out in the wash. But
mhm.
but then you could say, well, there's a temperament element there too. I
Yeah,
mean,
of course.
there's so much stuff that goes into it.
And I think a lot of people that I talk to who don't want two of the same sex
Mhm.
animals is because that's they've been taught. Like you can't have
Mhm.
two male pit bulls in the same home or they'll fight. You can't have two female pit bulls in the same home or they'll fight. Some organizations won't even adopt
Yeah.
to a male to another home that has a male.
Yeah.
I mean, my experience with Lucy was she didn't care if it was a boy or a girl as long as their energy was good. She was
Mhm.
good. She had lots of female friends. She had lots of male friends. It was fine, no matter what. But I've met dogs who another female comes and they instantly hate it, no matter how great that female
Mhm.
is, or another male comes and they hate it, no matter how great that other male dog is. So I think again, it comes back to an individual
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, obviously, like I have trauma when it comes to two females fighting because I lived
Right.
it.
Uh-huh.
So, but then the flip side of that was adding Daisy and Remy to our home, and it was so beautiful and it was so wonderful. And they showed me this can work. And then having my two boys and how great that is, I try to not let that impact my way of thinking at this point, but it's still there. And I think that that kind of like goes into it too. And I would also say if you're thinking about adding another dog and you have baggage about female and you don't feel good about it, you shouldn't do it because your baggage is you're gonna like kind of be emotional out onto the situation. You know what I mean? You could affect how they get along just because you're nervous about it and you're unsure about it.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
I think at the end of the day, balls are not the problem.
You're right.
think it is
Ball
truly,
drop. It's like
yes,
mic drop, but
yes. I really truly think that you have to make an informed decision.
yes.
If you are informed and you feel good about what you're doing and you've consulted your veterinarian and whoever your people are, your professional people, go with it and feel good about it. Just know that if you are having some kind of behavioral issue and you look and go, "Oh, well, I left the balls on. Clearly that's the reason." That's not necessarily the truth, and
Right.
taking those balls might not solve the problem. I'm sorry to
Right.
say,
Unfortunately,
because you might end up with a really humpy bulldog anyway.
you might. If you've enjoyed this episode, subscribe, rate, and share us wherever you get your podcasts. Also, come on over to Instagram and engage with us at Sometimes There's Side Eye.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.